Hi. So I just wanted to pop on and share something with you. So I'm just going to hang on a minute and see if anyone is around before I share this. And the title of this quick live is, "What on earth are you doing? Do you want to be anxious?" And the reason I have used that title is because those are the exact words that I was saying to myself recently. So I was saying to myself, what on earth are you doing? Do you want to be anxious? Because I noticed something that I was doing, and I'm going to share it because my guess is that a lot of people do it. I know there's a lot of people that I work with do it very often, and it's something that creates quite a bit of anxiety and feelings of anxiety for people. And it's something that I do a lot less, but I still do it all the same, and I do it because I'm human. But it makes me smile sometimes now when I catch myself doing it, and I can literally hear myself saying to myself, what on earth are you doing? Do you want to be anxious? So basically, years ago, I suppose, or maybe even a year ago, possibly still, the idea of, if you follow my page, you will have seen that I went to Kendal Calling at the weekend, or last Thursday. And you'll also see that it was a disaster. We had to come home, but it was just unfortunate. It was just one of those things. My daughter wasn't well and she needed steroids for her asthma. So I'm just realised what a state I look. And she, being in the middle of a field, was clearly not the best place for her. And she was really poorly and feeling really breathless, but it came on really suddenly. So we left. But anyway, that's by the by, that's another whole story. But when we were going there, well, first of all, when we booked it, if we'd have booked it the year before or the year before that, there is no way I would have even booked it. Because the idea of being in the middle of a field with the unknown, with lots of people, with stuff that I haven't done before, things that I can't control, a likelihood of lack of sleep, lack of luxuries, all that sort of stuff would have just filled me with fear. Because I wouldn't have been able to control everything, and then what if we'd got there and I changed my mind, and because it was for 4 days, then what would have happened? And I would have really overthought it to the point where I just wouldn't have booked it. I would have just said, no, it's not for me. And when we booked it, I booked it with a view to feeling okay about it, and probably a little bit apprehensive because I don't even go camping. But we booked a thing called an octopad, that's not a tent as such, so we had like a little bed. I mean, it was pretty much like a tent, a very expensive tent, but all the same, it was not quite a tent. And when we were leaving, I felt myself getting excited and quite giddy about it. And that was strange for me because I expected, given my history and given how I might have been about something like this a while ago, I was expecting myself not to feel, hi Chris, not to feel excited, but that, surely you're going to feel anxious with this. Surely you're going to get anxious. And I wasn't. I was excited. I was a bit, I wouldn't even say nervous, actually. I was just really excited and kind of looking forward to seeing what was ahead. I thought I'd just take it one step at a time. So I was in the car was packed up, we were driving. And as I was driving along, I found myself feeling surprisingly really quite calm. And once we got closer, I felt the excitement rise and I was a bit giddy. I was like, oh, we're nearly there. And, it was all really exciting. But what I then started to notice in the quiet moments where I was just sat in my own thoughts, relatively calm, the way I can describe it, it was like I wrote a post about this the other day, but it was like I had, like a metal detector. And I almost could visualise the metal detector, like beep, 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 looking for treasure. Except I wasn't looking for treasure, I was looking for shit. I was looking for anxious thoughts. And so even in that calm and in that peace, rather than just accepting that this was a new experience for me, that I was excited about a festival, and historically there's no way I would have been, I would have dreaded it. So the fact that I was looking forward to it was a completely new experience. So there must have been then some level of discomfort in that new experience, which I get a lot with clients, that when you start to feel less anxious, they can start to experience all sorts of different things that are really unfamiliar, and that in itself can be slightly uncomfortable. So I realised that what I was doing is I was using my metal detector, not for treasure and gold, because I already had treasure and gold. I was calm, I was excited, things were good. I was happy, I was with my family, I was really looking forward to it. Like, I had the gold, I had the treasure, I was sat in the treasure. But I got my metal detector out and I'm scanning. And I could see myself looking for anxious thoughts. I was saying things to myself like, ooh, we're getting closer now. This would usually be where I would start to get really anxious. Or I don't know what it's going to be like when we get there. So this is where I would be really anxious. So I was picking out all the times that in my past experience, I would expect myself to feel anxious. So rather than just staying in that calm and that excitement and going with that treasure that I had, I got my metal detector out. That isn't for treasure, it's for shit. And I was scanning for shitty, anxious thoughts. Now, if I'd have carried on scanning, then I would have started to feel anxious. And I caught myself. What I'm finding is the panic anxiety cause I feel depressed. Okay, I'll come back to that. That's a really good point. So I was scanning for these really anxious thoughts. I'm like, what? So I actually was saying to myself, I was like, what are you doing? You're happy, you're excited, you've got so much to look forward to. Why are you looking for reasons to be anxious? Why are you looking and comparing to what you might have been like 2 years ago going to a festival when you would have not wanted to go? Like, what are you doing? And I kind of laughed to myself, and this all happened really quickly. And the difference between somebody who doesn't understand the three principles and somebody that does is that I'm still going to scan, I'm still going to get my metal detector out occasionally, sometimes more often than not, sometimes a lot more than I'd like to. I am going to do it because I'm human, and every human has their own metal detector looking for shit, okay? And so I am going to do it, but the difference is when I realise I'm doing it and I just then drop it and I kind of laugh to myself rather than holding on to it and keeping it going to the point where then I would feel anxious, because I've created that much anxious thinking about it that the feeling's going to come. It is going to come at some point if you keep thinking about it in in that way, keep scanning for anxious thoughts. So I literally found myself visually like throwing my metal detector away, switching it off, and just like, I'm not scanning anymore. Like, what am I doing? What a bloody waste of time and energy. And like, why would you want to take yourself from a calm, nice, excited feeling to shitty ones? Like, what was I doing? What on earth was I doing? Okay. So I just kind of wanted to say that, because often when people first come to me, so say before they do my course or before I do any coaching or anything like that with them, I would say 99.9% of the time, it's like their scanners are on full alert all the time. So they're not just picking it up like I did and using it and then realising and putting it down. It's constant. It is constant. And so there's a comment here about when the anxiety reduces, you can sometimes then feel depressed. Then actually, you know, again, that's thought related. And what it can do is create a whole other load of different thinking that might not create feelings of anxiety because they're not anxious thoughts, but they're more kind of like, what now? You know, if you've been a certain way for a long period of time and then suddenly there's a big void or things are different, then you might start to fill it with, well, what happens now? Like, I was expecting more than this. I thought when my anxiety went away, I'd feel fantastic. What? And I don't. So why is that? Is it me? What is wrong with me? Am I depressed? Am I this? Am I that? That in itself is overthinking, but it might not be anxious thoughts. It might be more depressive thoughts that's going to create, again, them feelings of feeling low and depressed. So it kind of works the same way and comes in layers because, and I've experienced that myself, Jolene, I really get that, because it's kind of like, what do we do then to fill that void? And actually what we do is we fill it with joy and compassion and love and things that we like. But I think it can take us some time to kind of get up to speed with that, to fully believe that we can do that and are able to do that. So we start to notice that we're experiencing things slightly differently, because the thing with the three principles is they might take a while to sink in, but they'll start to sink in slowly. And so the anxious feelings will start to subside when the anxious thinking reduces. But that doesn't mean then that you're, someone else might find that they're getting agitated and angry more often because they're having more frustrated thoughts or whatever it is. It kind of works the same way. So just keep listening, keep learning, and keep doing what you're doing in terms of exploring the 3 principles, and it will have the same effect on those depressive thoughts as it does on anxious thoughts. No problem. Okay, so somebody else has just put here, if we just stop caring about what other people think about us and concentrated on how we feel emotionally, then we are so on the right path to a right balance of well-being. Yeah, because a lot of people spend a lot of time worrying about other people. And actually, it's the anxious thinking about other people that's creating those feelings of anxiety. But do you know what, Chris? My experience is that although we kind of like to think that we worry a lot about what other people think, more often than not, it comes back down to us being harsh. We're our own harshest critics. And it's kind of comes back to us. People will go through stages like, I don't care what other people think. And then there's other times where they might care more about what other people think. But one of the things that's extremely consistent when there's lots of anxious thinking going on is that we criticise ourselves. We don't need anybody else to judge us because we do enough of that ourselves. So, one of the things that really helped me with the 3 principles is I'm so much kinder and more compassionate to myself. So even in that situation I just explained at the beginning of this video, where I clocked myself scanning for anxious thoughts, and I was like, what are you doing? In the past, what I might have done is gone, oh, I'm so annoying, I can't just leave it be, I must be destined to be like this, I'm an idiot, I'm stupid, why don't I get it? And I didn't do any of that, which is why it passed quickly, because I just realised and was like, you bloody idiot, what are you doing that for? And just laughed to myself, because I'm laughing by the very fact that it's just human nature that I'm following, and it makes me smile. So it's important as well, it's a really good point that you make, but actually it's really important as well to look within with that, because we can be really critical of ourselves. First thing when you wake up, makes your belly go over feeling very sick. If you're waking up feeling anxious, so you've got physical symptoms in your belly, then that means you've been having lots of anxious thoughts in your sleep. We can't control the thoughts that we have, but the chances are if you're having anxious thoughts in your sleep that you've gone to bed having anxious thoughts. So it kind of all links in. So don't worry about the times of day, when it happens, when it doesn't happen. Just keep learning about the principles, keep experiencing, looking out for new ways of seeing things, and eventually it will all settle. Because again, this thing of some people say it's worse in the morning, other people will say it's worse at night. Now that's just about how we're thinking, because if anxiety was something that only got worse in the morning or in the evening, then we'd all have it at exactly the same time all the time, and we don't. We have it when we're creating lots of anxious thoughts. Feels good not to assess or judge your own thoughts and just allow feelings in and out. Sometimes rainy feelings, sometimes sunny feelings, but not judging any in order to avoid creating anxious thoughts. Yeah, because that's all they are. They're so neutral. So the thought, I fancy a cup of tea, and the thought, I might get anxious when I go out, are exactly the same. They're just thoughts. It's what you give to them. It's your consciousness awareness. It's what you then bring it to life with through your thinking. You give it loads of energy. You make it start to believe it. That's the only difference. Otherwise, those two are the exact same thing. They're just thoughts. So I hope that's helpful. And it's nice to see people pop up there and to comment. So thank you very much for that. But yeah, just look out for and reflect when your scanner is out on full form, and just switch it off. Like, you don't need it. You don't need to be scanning for shitty thoughts. Like, they'll come anyway. You're not going to get away without shitty thoughts. It's part of life. So why go scanning for them when they're not there, like I was doing, like an absolute plonker on Thursday? And the irony of it all was that we bloody came home anyway because my daughter wasn't ill. So wasn't well. So if I'd have spent all that time worrying about being there for 4 days, it would have been completely pointless because we couldn't anyway. So there you go. Okay, so I hope everyone's all right, and I will catch up with you soon. Take care. Bye.